Te hei Māori ora. Tēnā koutou katoa, ko Diane Ruwhi tōku ingoa, no ngā pui ahau. My name is Diane and I'm the Deputy Dean of the Graduate Research School. And it is my pleasure to share a karakia to start us off in this auspicious event. I should have said suspicious event, because you don't know what's coming. So a karakia timatanga, po hehiri, po rarama, po o te whakaaro, po o te tangata, po o te aroha, te pohe here ne e a tātou, Māori ora ki a tātou, haumie, huie, tāhiki e. Kia ora.
Tēnā koutou katoa, ko John Reynolds tōku ingoa, ngā mihi nui kia koutou. Welcome everybody to the 3-minute thesis grand final. And a mihi te Diane, thank you very much for your mihi whakatau. So I'm John Reynolds from the School of Biomedical Sciences, and I'm delighted to welcome you all here at present and online to the 3-minute thesis final. So I've got a few notices. I've got quite a few notices to give you actually, so you may have to get used to my voice, all right? But the first thing, the first line I read when I read this was where the nearest defibrillator was, which worried me somewhat. It's on the ground floor foyer, which I believe is that way. Yes? It's okay. Those of you who know how to use a defib, it's out there. Don't go practicing while the talks are on. The emergency assembly areas in the car park on the east side of the building. I believe that's north, so that's east, right? And the nearest fire escape is the exit through the nearest door that you can find and out there and assemble over in the car park. The alternative fire escape route is to exit through the east door via the corridor. Look, you'll get the idea. You see exit there, there's one there, there's two there, out you go over there. Right. Now, this is great to see so many people here. It's not as cold as last night. I think that might have pruned us a little bit if it was last night. But I really want to acknowledge particularly the members of the senior leadership team who are here, who have supported this event, and judges and MCs who are either in the audience or online, who helped out at the 3-minute thesis divisional heats. So I want you to give a round of applause for all of those people, please. You may not realise how much background work goes on to bringing this event. There are a lot of divisional heats across a lot of people, a lot of time, a lot of students who have worked very hard. We're seeing the cream here, but we've had some marvellous heats all the way over the divisions with some incredibly talented speakers, so fantastic. Now, we also have someone's got to judge and decide who's right and wrong, and we have a great judging panel here tonight, and I want to introduce them all to you now. So firstly, Sir Ian Taylor. So Ian is a prominent businessman and former television presenter, and I was sharing with him how I remember as a 13-year-old watching him on Spot On. That probably dates him more than me, I'm not sure, but anyway, it was a wonderful program. It shaped my youth. So Ian founded television production company Taylor Made Media in 1989 and established Animation Research Limited in the following year. Now, you'll probably know about Ian's work internationally for particularly in work in television, advertising and sports graphics. So Ian was inducted into the New Zealand Technology Hall of Fame in 2009 and was also named North and South Magazine New Zealander of the Year in 2010, an amazing achievement. Also in 2010, that was a good year, he was awarded an honorary fellowship of the New Zealand Computer Society, the top honour of the ICT sector in New Zealand. In the 2012 New Year's Honours, he was made a Companion of the New Zealand Order of Merit for services to television and business. We're very excited to have you judging us for tonight. Thank you, Sir Ian. Thank you. Next, very well known to many of us, Professor Richard Blakey, who is the Deputy Vice-Chancellor of Research and Enterprise and a Professor in Physics here at Otago. So he's also a veteran, he's also a veteran 3-minute thesis judge. I didn't read on. Richard received his BSc with honours from Otago and his PhD in physics from Cambridge University. He was then a visiting scientist at the Hitachi Cambridge Laboratory for a year before returning to New Zealand in 1993. Richard took up a position in the Department of Electrical and Computer Engineering at the University of Canterbury at that time, before luckily returning here to us in 2011 to his hometown and taking up his current role at Otago. Thank you, Richard. Last but certainly not least is please welcome Professor Tamlin Connor from the Department of Psychology, who's also an experienced 3-minute thesis judge. So Tamlin has a phenomenal record. If any of you supervise one PhD student, trying to imagine supervising 31 PhD and master's students to completion and 24 honours students. So I think she's pretty experienced in this field. Since joining faculty really only in 2008, so that's an incredible career. She has a special passion for training her students in science communication and outreach. Her postgrad students have collectively won 17 awards at scientific conferences, including Best Student Oral Presentation and People's Choice winner. So Tamlin won the OUSA Supervisor of the Year Award, very coveted, and I've never got there, in 2017, and the Division of Science's Outstanding Teacher of the Year last year. Her research spans a range of topics related to the psychology of wellbeing. Please join me in welcoming Tamlin and all the judges tonight. Now's where I draw up a nice cup of coffee and talk to you about some background information on the competition itself. I found this very great, so Susan helped me very much writing this information. So the idea for the 3-minute thesis came about at a time when the state of Queensland in Australia was suffering severe drought. To conserve water, residents were encouraged to time their showers, and many people had a 3-minute egg timer fixed to the wall in their bathroom. The then Dean of the Graduate School at the University of Queensland, Emeritus Professor Alan Lawson, put 2 and 2 together. He must have been in the shower. I couldn't quite work the link out. And the idea for the 3-minute thesis competition was born. So the first 3-minute thesis competition was held in Queensland, University of Queensland in 2008, with 160 research candidates competing. In 2009 and 2010, the 3-minute thesis competition was promoted to other Australian and New Zealand universities. Enthusiasm really grew, as those of us who have been here have seen it grow extensively over the last 10 years or so. 3-minute thesis competitions are now held in over 900 universities across more than 85 countries worldwide. So that's pretty impressive. Now we're going to get to the action soon, but bear with me a bit longer. A quick rundown of the rules. It's really quite important that we do give you the rules so that you'll know exactly how our judges are judging our competitors, and our competitors know these rules very well. So these are the same rules that are used through worldwide for all of the 3-minute thesis competitions. So they are allowed a single static PowerPoint slide, no transitions, no animations or movement of any descriptions allowed. The slide is to be presented from the beginning of the oration. So there's no additional electronic media such as sound or video files permitted. No props such as costumes, musical instruments or laboratory equipment are permitted. You do experiment in the middle of it. The presentations are limited, quite surprisingly, really, to 3 minutes, and competitors exceeding 3 minutes actually will be disqualified. So our timekeeper, Susan Craig, from the Graduate Research School, will hold up a sign for you contestants when you're 30 seconds left, and will ring a bell like Pavlov on the 3-minute time, and you must stop immediately, all right? Even if you're in mid-sentence, please do that. Presentations are to be spoken word, no poems, raps or songs. The only person officially allowed to do a rap was me as an MC or a song, and I don't think I would put you through that. Anyway, presentations are to commence from the front of the room. So presentations are considered to have commenced when you start your presentation or through movement or speech. So I will introduce them, and then I'll ask them if they're ready. They'll come up here, I'll put their slide on, and then we will watch for the movement or words that suggest they've started. And the decision of our judging panel is final. So what are our judges actually looking for tonight? They're looking for many things. The most important is comprehension and content. Did the presentation help the audience understand the topic? And was the topic communicated well to a non-specialist audience? Remember, these are very specialised topics, many of them, so we need to be able to get a gist of what is being communicated. Engagement. Was the audience left really wanting to know more? Now, they've got an incentive here to come here. There are some amazing prizes up for grabs. So the winner of the best doctoral 3-minute thesis for 2023 will receive a $750 study grant and the opportunity to compete in the virtual Asia Pacific 3-minute thesis competition, as well as the virtual Matariki network of universities 3-minute thesis competition. It's always good getting a prize and doing another presentation as a prize, but that's good. The doctoral runner-up will receive a $250 study grant, as well as the opportunity to compete in the virtual Matariki network of universities 3-minute thesis competition. We also not only we have 8 people going as PhD students, we also have 3 master's students, and our master's winner tonight will take away a $500 study grant and the opportunity to compete in the virtual New Zealand University's 3-minute thesis master's competition. And finally, your chance to say what you think. Our People's Choice Award is a $250 study grant, and we'll be asking you to cast your votes at the end of the presentations on the form provided with your program. So at the end of the presentations, the judges will retire and we'll invite you to make your votes out and collect them in. Right, housekeeping. Everybody's phones off, please. If you absolutely need to have them on, leave them silent, but off is better. We don't have to hear the vibrations. We really don't want to disturb these brilliant people in the middle of their 3-minute discourse. Now, a really important point of housekeeping. If you do really have to leave the room for some reason, please wait until a presentation's finished before re-entering. Don't walk in the middle of someone's talk. That really disrupts people. Thank you for your adherence to that. And please be aware that this evening's event is being recorded. So, okay, now I think we're going to get ready to get started very shortly. It's time to get on with the competition. So first of all, before we do this, can we please give a huge round of applause for the speakers and wish them good luck. Righty-ho, we're going to get the first person mic'd up. And that is Efe Celik from the School of Physical Education. Right, so don't have a clicker. Okay. All right, so Efe Celik from the School of Physical Education. So you come on up here and get yourself ready and relaxed. I'm just going to say a bit about you. So Efe's talk is mental fatigue. It's not all in your head. And supervisors are Associate Professor Melanie Bussi and Associate Professor Yusuf Chakmak. So are you ready? You have your slide up. Okay, so we'll put the slide on.
I want you to think about a time where you had plenty of pressure to perform. This could be a final exam, a sporting event, or even the 3-minute thesis. Obviously, you had a lot going through your mind, right? Now imagine that the mindset you had right before this high-pressure event was one where you just finished a long day of work. Your brain would feel fuzzy, and your thoughts would be unclear. Do you think you would do better or worse in this mindset? This mental state is called mental fatigue. It can be caused by anything that requires higher-level thinking, such as driving, studying, or social media, if it is done intensely or long enough. We can definitely feel mental fatigue as our attention and motivation levels are brought down. Like this guy, I'm sure that you probably want to sleep when you're mentally fatigued. There are many theories behind this, like decreased brain activity or a buildup of certain chemicals in the brain, but we're not sure why. However, the real question is whether mental fatigue actually affects our performance or whether it is irrelevant and we should just get on with what we need to do. You're going to hate me for this, but once again, we don't know. Obviously, it doesn't help that there's not a lot of research on this topic, but I think I know how to find the answer. I want to look at the effect of mental fatigue on swimming performance in competitive swimmers. You might be thinking, Efe, why have you chosen this thing to study? And I don't really want to justify myself, but I guess I have to. Mental fatigue can be studied in a variety of populations using a bunch of different tasks, as long as the people that complete these tasks do it regularly. As a swimmer, I know that the physical affects the mental, so I wondered if the mental also affected the physical. For my study, I will recruit 20 competitive swimmers and put them under 4 different conditions to see how their swimming is affected. These conditions include one where they sit and do nothing, one where they scroll through social media, one where they watch a documentary, and one where I mentally fatigue them. We're expecting to see that the swimmers' performances after scrolling through social media and after mental fatigue will be worse than the other 2 conditions. Not to brag, but I am also psychic. Right now, you're thinking that you couldn't care less about my research because you're not a competitive swimmer. Well, any task that takes longer than 30 seconds to complete will require your attention and motivation. Therefore, findings from my research will benefit your performance after mental fatigue in any area of life. All in all, the next time you're lining up for an Olympic final, or getting ready for the biggest interview of your life, don't look at your phone.
Well done, Effie. Now we're going to ask the judges.
Because I'm a veteran. Thank you, Ife. That was great. Look, again, I'm sure we'll see from many people that those techniques of drawing the audience through a really good, nice, colourful slide. And as things were drifting a bit, fact that you're psychic brought me back. So very, very good. Some really good skills, and it was very clear what you're aiming to do in your research. Thank you.
Yes, I have to agree. Really well presented, Effie, and very clear on the whole thing of mental fatigue. I often feel mental fatigue, so I look forward to the results of your research.
Thank you, Effie. I liked your eye contact and your presence. So in addition to being well organized and conveying your message clearly, you engaged us in the audience, and you had a good smile and you brought out humor. And I also like how you connected it to your own personal experience. So that just makes it all the better. Thanks.
All right. Our next master's student is Finn Dobby from the Department of Biochemistry. Now, Finn's title is A Genomic Analysis of Sequestrate and Mushroom-Forming Fungi, the DNA behind being a ball or being an umbrella. And Finn's supervisors are Associate Professor Chris Brown and Professor David Orlovich. How are you feeling? Are you ready? Right. Here we go.
I'm sure everyone here has seen a mushroom before, be it in the wild or the supermarket. And you may have noticed that they have two very specific shapes, depending on how old they are. When young, they have an unopened ball-like shape, such as a button mushroom. And when mature, they have an opened umbrella shape, such as a portobello mushroom. And yes, these are the same mushrooms. But what if I was to tell you that there was a type of mushroom out there that was stuck in the ball-like shape, unable to release its spores, and yet, despite its disadvantage, is still found all across the world? Well, this is not a mushroom at all. This is a sequestrate fungus. Sequestrate fungi share a common evolutionary ancestor with mushrooms. After all, they came from them. But despite this, they never developed beyond a ball. They never re-evolved back into a mushroom. This indicates that, genetically at least, something has stopped working in the sequestrate fungus that has then caused it to become sequestrate. But the question is, what happened? What changed? And if we put these changes into other mushrooms, will they also become sequestrate? This is what my project is trying to answer. New Zealand is home to many sequestrate fungi, and one that you may be familiar with is the scarlet pouch fungus. This fungus shares a common ancestor with chip cherries. By comparing the scarlet pouch fungus and chip cherries before they start developing and after they start developing, I was able to identify genes in chip cherries that should be preventative of sequestration. That is to say, genes that when removed will make it into a ball. Now, I found these genes, all I need to do is test them, right? Well, chip cherries, despite being found all around the world, is impossible to grow in the lab. But luckily I do have a backup called the ink cap mushroom. This mushroom is 260 million years diverged. So it has been removed from the family tree quite a few times. So of all the proteins, of all the genes I had found that were potentially preventative of sequestration, I could only pick the ones that were also found in the ink cap and were also expressed during a similar period of time. And luckily I found a few of these. So now I have the genes, I have the mushroom, all I need to do now is knock them down. But in order to do this, what I do is I select the mRNA of the genes I want to investigate, and I modify them and then spray them onto the mushroom. This then tricks the mushroom into thinking that its own mRNA is a virus, causing it to destroy its own mRNA and hence stopping its own gene expression. I will then monitor this and then see if there are any sequestrate features. However, unfortunately, this method is a bit more complicated than I've let on, and it has not worked so far. But should you see me skipping down the road one day, this means it has worked, and fungal knowledge is sure to follow. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think I managed to keep up. Very well presented again, very engaging right from the get-go, and a wonderful finish.
You've accomplished the impossible by getting me to care about a sequestrate fungus. You anthropomorphized it, which I appreciate. You could have carried that analogy. You could have carried that through a bit further, and I did get a little lost in the middle, but I didn't really care because I was quite engaged and I'm really excited about your science. And it's very complex science, and I think you did a good job overall of conveying that.
You stole my word. Well, it wasn't quite my word. I was going to use personification. Yeah, and it's on your slide too. You are giving character and effect to the really technical parts of your research, which is really good. And of course, the three things that came through most about you are your enthusiasm, and your enthusiasm. So well done.
Okay, well done, Finn. The last of our master's students are now coming up. Louis Martin. So Louis Martin is from the School of Geography, and the title of his talk is What Makes a Good Cup of Fresh Water? And his supervisor is Dr. Sarah Mager. And just ground yourself. Are you ready?
Yep.
Take a big breath. Good. Okay. Yeah, Louis.
Freshwater streams, lakes and rivers are one of the most helpful tools for assessing the environmental impacts of land use. When it rains, water runs off the land, picking up any debris or chemicals on the land which then accumulate in these waterways. New Zealand has extreme contrast in its freshwater quality, some waterways ranked purest in the world and some of which are too polluted to support any animal life at all. My research is based in Canterbury, a region under scrutiny over its poor water quality from decades of agricultural land use. More specifically, I'm looking along a few farm drains, analysing changes in the water quality along these drains, which can then be attributed to how the surrounding land is being used and managed. The output of this research will help farmers to understand what activities and managements can improve the water quality in their farm drains. Nitrate is the pollutant of focus for my research, with its high rates in the area stemming from fertilisers used for agriculture. Nitrate levels in my study drains regularly exceed policy thresholds, which causes algae blooms in stagnant sections of water, and if drunk by people, increases the rates of miscarriage and bowel cancer. This map here shows one of the study drains I'm looking at, with the pictures surrounding it showing what the drain actually looks like at different points. The nitrate up the top of the drain is relatively low, but this spikes up from the spring a third of the way down, which pumps really high nitrate water into the drain. The nitrate levels then remain pretty steady as the drain progresses through cattle grazing and out into the ocean. The fact that this spring had really high nitrate was quite surprising. It just looks like pure fresh water coming out of the ground, like you'd see on a drink bottle advertisement. It's really puzzling, and it's currently what I'm trying to figure out. Once I've figured out the changes that can be attributable to groundwater and the springs, I'll then be able to focus on the surface water and what's coming off the land. Currently, the focus point is on nitrates, but my supervisor made a good point that, in theory, this could all be solved if we just pour gallons of toxic acid into the drain, which neutralizes nitrate but kills everything else. They were just kidding. Therefore, the ecological aspect is also really important. So further down the line, I'll be incorporating some freshwater invertebrate data as well. This will link the water chemistry with what is actually living in these drains. I believe the findings of this research will help farmers and environmental scientists to understand how different types of farming can affect drain water quality. They can then work together to improve the water quality throughout New Zealand.
Thank you for that. So very well organized, very clear. I was able to follow it from start to finish. One thing that I wanted to know is, why are you interested in this topic? What connects you to this research?
Thank you again, echoing those comments about how well organised it was, and also it was great to see you come alive when at that point, which I think we all see in research, when you see something that is perhaps a little surprising. Why is the spring a source of nitrate? So again, that's the point at which I really got captured by your enthusiasm.
Yes, I agree. This is a very complex subject and incredibly important. And I think, you know, as a layperson listening to you in just 3 minutes, I really understood one of the biggest challenges facing us. And I think, you know, you've done a superb job in presenting that.
Thank you.
Well done, Louis. So a quick round of applause for our 3 master's students. All right. Now we're moving on to our doctoral candidates. And our first speaker is going to be Tyler Alexander from the Department of Pharmacology and Toxicology, and the title of her talk is Home Invasion. Her supervisors are Professor Debbie Hay, Dr. Michael Garelja, and Professor Michelle Glass. How are you feeling? You ready? Okay. There you go.
It was the most excruciating pain I've ever felt. Someone had hit me on the side of my head. My eyes couldn't focus on where they were. I started vomiting, which only made it worse. I don't know how long later I took some painkillers, but it made no difference. All I could do was sit in the dark and wait for this violent attack to end. How did this violent attacker get into my home? If only there was some way of stopping them from getting in. This picture was created by a person living with migraine, and it matches my attack closely. Did you know more than 1 billion people worldwide are living with migraine? And it is the second leading cause of years lived with disability. Yet, we still don't know how a migraine attack occurs. What we do know is if migraine patients are infused with a particular small protein, a migraine-like attack is triggered. This protein is called calcitonin gene-related peptide, or CGRP. Now, multiple drugs have been developed to target CGRP and its receptor. These CGRP-specific drugs have been life-changing for migraine patients, but they still don't work for all patients, and we don't know the long-term effects of these drugs. To answer these questions, it's important to understand how these drugs are acting at the cellular level. This is where my research comes in. Some of these drugs have been designed to bind and stop the activation of the CGRP receptor, which acts as a messenger, relaying information into the cell. But there's another receptor, the amylin-1 receptor, which can also relay information from CGRP into the cell. My work engineers cells to create these 2 receptors so I can compare how they behave in the presence of CGRP pathway blocking drugs. My results have shown that even though these drugs were designed to target the typical CGRP receptor, they can also act on the amylin-1 receptor. So what does this mean? Is the ability to also act on the amylin-1 receptor helpful or harmful? More research is needed to fully understand what is happening during a migraine attack, as there's still a lot we don't know. But my work provides insight into how these drugs are acting at the cellular level, which then can be applied to creating better therapeutics. My work is just a small piece in a larger puzzle that will hopefully end with fewer disabling migraine attacks. If we can stop these messengers, maybe we can stop these home invasions.
Oh, thank you, Tyler. What you did is very, very powerful, connecting a personal story to your slide that reminded us right the way through, as you got into that technical detail, which you navigated also very well, why what you were doing is important. And again, the thing you did well was identify that you had specific findings, but that they weren't the full answer, that the what does this mean was quite powerful too. Thank you very much.
Tyler, superb performance, again, personalised. I love the title. I saw the name up here, had no idea what it was. So the title, just everything about the way you personalised the story. You talked about your research You posed questions, you answered questions. It was, superbly delivered.
Yeah, you had two things that make for a really good talk. You had a great start and a great ending. And I thought that yeah, the middle was good too. But psychologically, we tend to just remember the starts and the endings of things. So you really did that well. And I liked how you created a mental picture, not only of the pain, like I can feel the pain in the way that you acted it. So it makes a much stronger connection to the material. Thank you.
Okay. Now, our next speaker is doing a Doctor of Business Administration. So it's Ian Herbert. He's undertaking the DBA program in conjunction with the Department of Management. So the title of Ian's talk is International Trade Biodiversity Finance. His supervisors are Dr. Sarah Carr, Dr. Jeff Foote, and Professor Nathan Berg. How are you feeling? All right? Okay.
How many of us get to the end of the day feeling tired and we say to ourselves, I can do that tomorrow? We're doing the same thing with the globe's biodiversity, the variety of wildlife on Earth. In just 50 years, the Living Planet Index of 21,000 biodiversity populations has collapsed by 70%. The UN is asking us for urgent action, saying that the collapse will continue due to a significant shortfall in wildlife investment. Yet, we spend more on cosmetics and cosmetic surgery than we do on our own children's future with nature. Are our children really okay with us taking away their future? Even though international trade is the largest destroyer of biodiversity, my position is clear. They can help us fix this problem. That is why I want the international trade sector to introduce a new international financial tool. I initiated this research to design and test the Biodiversity Investment Contribution, the BIC. The intended outcome of the BIC is to provide 5 to 10% of the global finance gap. The UN is on board with the research. The research strategy calls on the international business case approach. It's a problem-solving process where we compare options against each other. Initial results show that the BIC significantly outperforms green bonds and plant-a-tree schemes because the BIC can invest across all international borders to reach those places where biodiversity benefits are high and the costs are low. We need to get our investment into these vulnerable places. The BIC will do that for us. I'd like to show you how it works. The ship represents the international trade sector working like a club. The money bag represents the BIC export levy. Members contribute 0.1% each time they export to raise the revenues needed. The elephant represents biodiversity investment. Biodiversity is the outcome. We want to get the elephant out of the room and back into the jungle for our children. The next stage is international workshops, but the conclusion is unmistakable. If we are genuine about our children's future with biodiversity, we need enduring biodiversity finance. The BIC will help us do that. Kai te akitanga o te tai ao.
Well, I think you nailed one of the key issues of a presentation about an idea, and that is you clearly explained the why, our future, our mokopuna, our children. And from the basis of that, if everybody agrees to the why, the how gets easier. And you demonstrated the how superbly. Thank you.
Thank you.
I felt like I was on Shark Tank, and I want to give you the money right now. I was convinced from the start to the finish, and I really liked how you started with that analogy of and that dig on cosmetic surgery. So that was good.
I'm a natural procrastinator, so I loved your start. And again, getting in there, and you used a lot of humour in there, the elephant in or out of the room, and again, drew it together really, really well. So well done, Ian.
Thank you. Cool. Thank you.
Okay. Now, our next speaker is Jacopi Maiono from Te Tumu School of Māori Pacific and Indigenous Studies. Jacopi is going to talk on 50 years of independence, Indigenous perception on sustainable land development in Fiji. Jacopi's supervisors are Dr. Telesa Kalaviti and Associate Professor Diane Rufew. Are you ready?
Could you close your eyes for a minute, please? Imagine growing up on a picturesque island, 10 kilometers long, 2 kilometers wide. Standing atop the highest peak, you could gaze out and see the entire island, its beauty enveloping you. But beneath this idyllic paradise lies a sinister truth, a truth that threatens not only this tiny island, but the very fabric of our planet, climate change. Please open your eyes. I began my research in 2020 knowing that climate change was the single biggest threat to Otago land use. I later found out that it is also the intersection between traditional land use and political ecologies where the risk of climate change must be addressed. After Fiji was ceded to Great Britain, it quickly became one of the best tourist destinations in the world, with the famous slogan, "Fiji the way the world should be." This image was carefully crafted, showcasing stunning, beautiful resorts with a warm Fijian Bula smile. However, this image of paradise was short-lived, replaced by machine guns with troops taking over the parliament. An era of political upheaval that followed has been viewed by many scholars that it stemmed from the Otago fear of losing their ancestors' land. So why are the Otago willing to commit treason in order to keep their land? A sacrifice that a selected few are willing to take in order for their future generation to have a place they could call their home. The Otago understanding of land could be totally different from all of us in this room. But one thing I'm certain, in a small island like where I come from, the people, they understand the intricacy of the land. They have witnessed its change firsthand and has carried with them the wisdom of generations. That's why this research used the indigenous Vanua research methodology. Through their narrative, I uncovered the challenge faced by the land and the people in the face of climate change and political oppression. The research discovered that after 50 years of independence, the government does not prioritize sustainable land development that benefit the Otago. The research also highlights the importance of traditional knowledge, the role of church, government, and wealth creation. It is through those 4 independent pillars that must be addressed in order for Fiji to realize their land sustainability. So let us listen to their stories and together create a world where every generation have a place they could call home. Thank you.
Thank you. I really liked the passion that you bring into your presentation and the topic, and involving us from the very start. And you yourself are a narrative storyteller.
Yeah, thank you very much. That was very powerful, and what it brought through to me was the intergenerational knowledge that you were bringing. You were not there on your own, you were there with your ancestors and with the communities that you had done research with, bringing their story forward. So thank you. I think you showed them all great respect. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. I did make a note when I saw the title, It was a very long title for the thing, and I put a question mark beside it. You destroyed that question mark right from the opening when we closed our eyes. You told that story superbly. Your connection with Papatuanuku, Mother Earth, Gaia, the understanding that we need to be looking back to those, the lessons of our tupuna was so powerful. Thank you.
Okay. Our next speaker is Zara Mansour from the Department of Psychological Medicine at the University of Otago, Wellington. And her title is Emotion Coaching for Parents and Whānau of Teens with Mental Health Services. Can we help better navigate the storms? And her supervisors are Dr. Elliot Bell, Associate Professor James Stanley, and Dr. Sarah Fortune. How are you? You ready?
The teenage years have a reputation for being a stormy time. For young people with mental health difficulties, things can get particularly rough. Globally, 1 in 4 adolescents will experience a common mental health condition like anxiety or depression. In Aotearoa, young people from our Māori, Pacifica and Rainbow communities are also more vulnerable. Parents and other whānau members are often the first port of call for young people in distress, and how they respond to their emotions can make a big difference in how these storms are navigated. Despite this, mental health treatments for this age group are often focused on the individual, and whānau can be left feeling at sea. My research is focused on a program called Tuning Into Teens that is designed specifically for this age group and aims to give parents evidence-based skills they can use to help coach their teens through the emotional storms of these years. The first step to this is parents successfully tuning into how their child is feeling, without judgment and with empathy. This helps their child to calm, understand, and better navigate through their emotions, and can be contrasted with other ways of responding that may ignore or dismiss emotions. For example, imagine a teen, or yourself as a teen, upset at missing out on a party. A dismissing response might be something like, "Oh well, it's just a party." An emotion coaching response might be, "That sucks. It feels awful to miss out." This may sound simple, but can be the difference between stirring up the waters or calming them down. Currently, research for this program is limited to a group of young people in the community without particularly high levels of mental health difficulties. Coming from a background working in the public child-adolescent mental health services, I wanted to see whether giving whānau more of these kinds of skills could also help the young people we see with more severe difficulties. To do this, we conducted a feasibility randomised control trial across several services in the Wellington region. 10 to 14-year-olds with anxiety or depression were randomised to either care as usual or care as usual plus their parents or caregivers completing a Tuning Into Teens group. We also included measures co-designed with parents and young people based on what they thought was important. We've had over 30 families take part in this study, and initial feasibility results have been positive. Importantly, families have told us that this program has helped them better support their young people, and clinicians have said that there is a need for this kind of intervention and that it fits well with whānau-centred care. Final results from this trial will inform how it may be further used or evaluated. My hope is that by better supporting the whānau of young people with mental health difficulties, we can help steer them on a stronger course into adulthood, or as this whakatauki tells, he moana puki puki e ikinga e te waka. A choppy sea can be navigated.
Thanks very much. And the whakatauki at the end, again, the great ending brings everything together and helps remind us about the importance of your work and the fact that you're working from within practice, very clear, very precise protocols and outcomes. Good. So exceptionally well communicated message. Thank you.
You said it all. You know, it was a tremendous presentation, and all I could think of as you spoke was I am hope. Mike King's, youth. It is such an important area of research, and your focus on the whānau and the way you conveyed the importance and the way this hits families was very, very good.
immediately you set, I think, the audience at ease. We knew we were in good hands. You were very relaxed. You have a great speaking style. You seem like a professor up there, honestly. I liked that you had that example was fantastic, the way that you role played that. It really made it come alive in terms of the important research that you're doing.
Kia ora, thank you guys.
Right, we're now going to hear from Hui Min Un from the Department of Medicine, University of Otago, Christchurch. These are people who have travelled a bit of a way to get here. From ordinary to extraordinary, exploring unique grain fibre bread for gut health and beyond. Supervisors Professor Richard Geary, Professor Nicole Roy, Dr. Catherine Wall, and Dr. Simone Bayer. Are you ready?
Imagine this, a life where you have regular and comfortable trips to the toilet, feel happy and in high spirits all the time, and have low chance of developing chronic diseases. Intrigued? Well, the secret to this might be as simple as getting enough dietary fiber. Fiber is a type of carbohydrate that our body cannot absorb or digest in our small intestine. Instead, it becomes a feast for bacteria in our large intestine. Adequate fiber intake can help with constipation, may diversify our gut bacteria, benefiting our immune system, and even for communication between our gut and brain for better mental health. But surprisingly, half of our New Zealand population are not getting enough dietary fiber, and this issue applies worldwide. So, adding fiber to our everyday foods, like bread, can be an easy and effective strategy to increase our fiber intake. Bread, being the main source of fiber and is one of the cheaper food products to buy here in New Zealand, is versatile, widely available, and can be consumed by anyone regardless of your ethnicity or cultural background. Bread also serves as an ideal vehicle for adding grain fibers into it to increase its fiber content. To the best of our knowledge, no studies have explored the effect of using this unique grain fiber in bread, which has 3 times the fiber compared to white bread, on gut health, mental well-being, and gases in the gut among healthy adults. So, to fill this research gap, we have conducted a randomized crossover study in Christchurch. We recruited and randomized 60 healthy people with low fiber intake to consume either the unique grain fiber bread or white bread for 28 days, and then they cross over to the other bread for another 28 days again. Before and after each bread, we collected blood and stool samples, online questionnaires, food, bread, and bowel movement diaries, and performed body and blood pressure measurements. We have also selected 15 participants to swallow this novel technology in the form of capsule to assess certain gases produced in the gut. Once we have analyzed all this data, this will provide valuable insights into the benefits of adding this unique grain fiber bread into our everyday diets. This knowledge may also empower our food industry and the public health system to develop more targeted interventions aimed at improving our fiber intake and pave the way for better gut health and mental well-being among adults. So, before I finish, let us all reflect and ask ourselves, are we all ready to move beyond the ordinary white bread and embrace the extraordinary potential of this unique grain fiber bread for better gut health and beyond? Thank you.
Wei, I am ready for that journey. I am coming with you. I cannot believe that a subject just as simple as that daily bread, give us a day, our daily bread could be conveyed so wonderfully, and the science was just made so clear. So I'm on the journey with you.
Oh, yes. And bringing toilet humour into the start of the presentation is not a bad thing to do. Again, your enthusiasm, your gesturing, your poised slide is great. And that nice thing that brought us back, that statement, reflect at the end. So that was great.
I don't even know why you're here, because I think you're already an expert science communicator.
Okay, now we're moving on to Saratha Devi Rajendran from the Department of Food Science. The title of her talk is Beefless Beef. Her supervisors are Professor Phil Bremer and Research Associate Professor Patrick Silcock. So when you are ready.
Who in the audience has a beef with beefless beef? What is it? Well, it is a plant-based meat alternative. Many people are eating more plant-based foods owing to concern for the environment, their health, or animal welfare. For people choosing to reduce their meat consumption, plant-based meat alternatives seem like a perfect solution. However, obtaining a realistic flavor from these alternatives is an ongoing challenge. Currently, you can buy alternative with a texture like meat, but you cannot get a great meat flavor. Flavor is a complex sensory perception that's occurring during eating food. An important part of flavor is aroma compounds, which are released from the food during chewing and swallowing and detected by odor receptors in the nose. The goal of my research was to make desired flavors from plants using bacterial fermentation. This is a process in which bacteria use compounds in the plants for their energy and produce secondary metabolites. These secondary metabolites are flavor compounds. My research is involved understanding which flavor compounds produced from plant fermentation together make meat flavor. However, plants are complex in composition, so understanding how to generate these flavors from plants was painstaking. To help to understand the process involved, I developed a plant model which resembles plant composition. To investigate how different bacterial species impact on the flavors produced, I used 3 single bacteria commonly used in food science and a mix of 3 bacteria species and measured the amount of resulting fermentation flavor compounds using different techniques. Interestingly, many different flavor compounds were detected after fermentation, some of which were responsible for meaty flavors. Specifically, cooked meat flavor compounds were detected after fermentation by all bacterial species. LP and PP species produced more cooked meat flavor compounds than LB or mixed species. Roast meat flavor compounds were only detected after fermentation by mixed species. In conclusion, my research is explaining how we might be able to produce meat-like flavor compounds from plants. Hopefully, one day you'll be able to thank me for making beefless beef taste better. Thank you.
Thank you. I love your energy and enthusiasm for your topic and your research. It was very clear, and I am finding myself being quite hungry right now, and you make bacteria taste delicious, so thank you.
Thank you.
No, excellent. And one thing you did very well was use your platform. You moved around and you expressed enthusiasm in your voice and in your movement and with your gestures. And you took us very nicely. It's got complexity on your slide, but you took us around the loop following the arrows. Thank you very much.
Yes, the slide did look complex at first, and you've taken us through that journey beautifully. Even I understood it, and I look forward to tasting that beef. But it was your enthusiasm and your actually passion for this issue, which is a really important one as we go forward as well. So great research and beautifully presented.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to Megan Southorn, who is in the Department of Anatomy. The title of her talk is A Mystery in History, Infant Death in Dunedin. Her supervisors are Professor Sian Halcrow and Associate Professor Claire Cameron. Ready?
We have a mystery on our hands. Between 1850 and 1940, 5,196 babies died and were buried in central Dunedin. Yet New Zealand was supposedly the global leader in reducing infant deaths at this time. We had better living conditions, state maternity hospitals, and the Plunket Society, which was founded to help the mothers and save the babies. New Zealand was supposed to be a place for families to thrive. So why were these babies dying? We know that babies are less resilient than adults, and we know that babies who die within the first month of life tend to die from different causes than those who are older. What we don't know are the individual details of infant mortality, how those 5,196 babies came to be buried in the northern and southern cemeteries. Here are our suspects. We have infection, healthcare, nutrition, and maternal factors. To find out exactly why these babies were dying, I took their recorded cause of death and defined it into 10 major categories. I also looked at the differences between the babies of married parents and the babies of unmarried parents. Single mothers might have faced social stigma for having a child out of wedlock, and what affects mum affects baby. So we have our perpetrators. Perpetrator number 1, infection. Just under half of the babies in both groups died from infection. This isn't surprising. Dunedin was rife with opportunities for infection to spread. Sewage would flood down from the hills every time it rained, which, as we all know, is frequently. Perpetrator number 2, stillbirth. This makes up about 10% of the group, but the true number could be much higher, as stillbirths weren't legally required to be registered until 1918, which is a long way through the time period in this study. Perpetrator number 3, prematurity. Effective support for early-born babies is a very recent development. In the time period in this study, babies born before month 8 of pregnancy likely would have struggled to survive. And perpetrator number 4, nutrition. This is where things start to differ between different status families. Nutrition-related illness such as scurvy, anemia, and malnutrition weren't a major cause of death among the infants of married parents. In the infants of unmarried parents, however, they were the second most commonly recorded cause of death. So, mystery solved? Not quite. We have our top 4 causes of death, and we know that having a single mother probably wasn't beneficial to health at this time. We're still investigating why these differences exist, but for now, that remains a mystery.
Thank you, Megan. Again, you did a lot of things that everyone loves. Everyone loves a rhyme, so mystery and history brought us in before. Everyone loves a crime, so the CSI element to this. And you tread a fine line here. This is a really important human topic, but with a little bit of levity, not too much, not too little. You did that well, and the graphic is just amazing. The amount of time that you put into that, I can't imagine.
Yeah, I agree. The whole way you brought us into a story we all understood, and I agree with Richard there. Infant mortality, it's a very serious subject, but you handled it incredibly well and you dealt with the mystery superbly.
Yeah, I also like the mystery. I like the way that you framed it. You've packed a lot in here and it helped you organize your talk. You just come across like a natural storyteller. You really do. You're relaxed and engaging. And so I don't know if you are a natural storyteller or if you've just rehearsed and done this so well, but regardless, it's just excellent. Really, job well done. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, we're on to the final speaker of tonight, and it's Jai Whelan from the Department of Psychology, and Jai is going to speak about Is Aotearoa an Ecstasy? MDMA use and users of New Zealand.
Methylene dioxymethamphetamine, or MDMA, is the major active ingredient in what has historically been known as ecstasy. It's one of the most commonly used drugs throughout the world today, and it's not quite a stimulant, but not quite a hallucinogen, although it's known for inducing feelings of euphoria, greater energy, and an emotional openness with others, a pro-social high. Drug experts consistently rank MDMA as safer than alcohol and even cannabis in drug harm ranking studies across the globe, which might leave you reconsidering what you know about drugs. Here in Aotearoa, wastewater analysis has led to Ōtepoti being dubbed the MDMA capital, which is not all that surprising given our lively student party culture. But if you ask the population, around 4% of adults actually report using MDMA in the past year, making us some of the highest consumers across the globe. Now, although we know there's a lot of people consuming MDMA, we don't actually know that much else. That's why I set out to interview a whole bunch of users and carry out a national survey, all about the drug and people who use it. Now, although I'm still undertaking analyses, I'd like to share a few key points. Firstly, although dose and frequency are wide-ranging, most people are using responsibly. And actually, they're primarily motivated by the pleasurable social experience that MDMA can facilitate. Beyond that, around 10% of the people I surveyed also said they use MDMA to treat their own mental health issues. And sure, some people have experienced harm from MDMA consumption, but most people are concerned more about other drugs masquerading as MDMA rather than MDMA itself. Although, drug checking services like Know Your Stuff NZ that can identify those other substances have only been utilised by about a third of consumers, primarily due to lack of access. Nudge, nudge, Ministry of Health. Knowing more about MDMA consumption in this country will allow us to have better informed drug education and harm reduction initiatives. If we give voice to this relatively hidden but significant population, we'll be able to identify and interrogate key sources of stigma for this group and hopefully shift the needle for other more stigmatized groups, such as methamphetamine users. It's my hope that this work will also directly inform future drug policy in Aotearoa, shifting us collectively away from that failing prohibitionist attitude towards an evidence-based harm reduction approach rooted in health and human rights. Thank you.
Thanks, Jai. That was really interesting. You had a really good use of statistics in your talk. So aside from having a relaxed, very comfortable speaking style, you used statistics and you gave us some fascinating insights. I did not know that Dunedin is the MDMA capital. Now I know that. It's very concerning. But maybe not, according to your research. Thank you.
Yeah, I was brought to a professorial lecture from Chris Jackson, the former director of the research at the Cancer Society, and what you did was great in terms of providing evidence-based, I would use the word advocacy, but you clearly are working from a position, but you know the message that you want to deliver. You're trying to nudge the world into a place that will improve things for people. And you had a great style to be able to take your research and with humour along the way, but with that great use of numbers and statistics. I can see you at the Parliamentary Select Committee at some point making that message.
Yes, I agree with all those. And the slide is great. You know, and you actually just the story you tell, it helped explain the question mark, the slide, and everything about that graphic, and just the use of statistics, all of that. And I agree, you will be up there pushing this message.
Thank you.
What an incredible breadth and depth of talent we have in this university across our campuses to produce such wonderful talks as that. So I want you all please to join me in giving them all a big hand. What a fantastic job. I've certainly learnt a lot about fibre and avoiding MDMA or whatever I'm going to do. But no, really fantastic talks. Using it responsibly. All right, now, thank you for those presentations. It's now time for our three judges to leave the room to deliberate on tonight's winners. So Susan will accompany them to the deliberation room. I didn't know we had a deliberation room. I must look at that one day. Thank you, judges. And now it is your turn So can I now ask you to place your votes for the People's Choice Award? Who do you think was tonight's best competitor? And you can use best however you wish to interpret. You should find the voting form inside your program. Susan, when she comes back, and Anam and Zohara will come around shortly to collect your forms for the People's Choice. Take your time, have a think. Hopefully you have a pen somewhere.
Pens coming out.
Pens are coming, here we go. Right, now I think you can probably imagine yourself being a judge in this particular scenario and trying to cut a tiny wee slither from all of these wonderful speakers. So very, very, very difficult indeed. I'd like to give them all first prize, to be honest. But anyway, welcome back. So thank you, the judges. Before I invite Professor Richard Blakey to present the prizes to tonight's winners, I'd like to ask him to say a few words about the competition and about our participants. Thank you, Richard.
Thank you very much, John. Look, actually, no, John was right. We would have dearly loved to give you all first prize. That in many aspects, what you did was brave, it was hardworking, it was entertaining, and the enthusiasm of you all came through. Unfortunately, the financial position of the university does not permit us in the current environment awarding more than one of the particular prizes. So we had to do a hard cut, and it was hard. And I know that because I know the People's Choice. I know that we've made a decision that is different from the People's Choice, which also reflects that these are very subjective opinions. So we couldn't agree. We had a deliberation. There was an arm wrestle, and we did, though, end up with a winner in the Masters, a runner-up, and a winner in the doctoral candidates as well. So I'll hand back to John, who will, I think, do the announcement, and we'll get the people up.
So actually, the first thing we're going to do is give everybody a participation certificate. Thank you very much. So we're going to go them in order there. So Tyler Alexander, come and get your participation. Well done. Oh, it's got them in there. You get your photo. Okay, I'll get out of the way. I can't see who the next one is then. Okay. Yes, Efe Chalek. Finn Dobby. Ian Herbert. Oh. Jacopi Maiono. Zara Mansour. Louis Martin. Hui Min En. Saratha Devi Rajendran. Megan Southorn. And Jai Whelan. Now I have the tremendous privilege to announce the winners. So the first award tonight is to the winner of the Masters competition. So please congratulate Finn Dobby. Finn will receive a $500 study grant and the opportunity to compete in the virtual New Zealand University's 3-minute thesis Masters competition. Well done, Finn. Next we have the winner of the People's Choice Award. So come on up, Ian Herbert. Well done. So Ian receives a $250 study grant. Well done. Now we're on to the doctoral awards. So the runner-up in the 2023 3-minute thesis competition is Hui Min Eun. Well done. So Hui receives a $250 study grant as well as the opportunity to compete in the virtual Matariki network of universities' 3-minute thesis competition. So there's got to be a winner. There's always a winner. And the winner of the 2023 3-minute thesis competition is Tyler Alexander. So Tyler receives a $750 study grant and the opportunity to compete in the virtual Asia Pacific 3-minute thesis competition, as well as the virtual Matariki network of universities 3-minute thesis competition. Congratulations to you all. Big clap. Thank you. Thank you, Richard. Thank you to our judging panel, Sir Ian Taylor, Professor Tamlin Connor, and Professor Richard Blakey. Thank you also to our audience here in Dunedin and those of you who are watching from afar via live stream. Thank you for coming and being such a supportive audience. It's fantastic. I have some important thanks to make. This is not an easy thing to put on, and it's been fantastically managed. The Graduate Research School, many of you are here, for providing the Research Grant Awards for the award winners today and for working with the University of Otago events team in putting this event on. So thank you to them. Thanks to the University Marketing Advisors and Communications team for helping to organise, promote and support the 3-minute thesis. Everyone gets a clap. And I said, again, very, very important to thank those who were part of the divisional heats in a judging or MC capacity or all the organisational parts that go on to that. And also the Divisional Associate Deans Postgraduate who helped with the organisation of these divisional heat events. Thank you. And special thanks to somebody who's not here but did an awful lot of work in the start. Oh, she's here. Where's Carolyn? Oh, hello. I'm sorry she's here. Special thanks to Carolyn Jenkins, who worked very hard on this event before leaving the university, but has come back to us in July, and to Diane Riffiu and Susan Craig, as well as Zohara Rafi and Anam Nawaz for their work on this event. Big round of applause for them. Thank you. And I just want to remind our competitors, don't run off to the pub yet. Please stay, because we're going to have you for some photographs. So, thank you.
And I'd like to say a very special thank you to our wonderful MC, Professor John Reynolds, for all his work. Here you are, John.
Oh, thank
you. Kia ora koutou. So karakia whakamutanga, just to close and bring us to a nice end of the evening, except we still have photos as well. Te whakaaetanga e, tēnei te kaupapa ka ea, tēnei te wānanga ka ea, te Māori o te kaupapa ka whakamoia, te Māori o te wānanga ka whakamoia, koia ki runga, koia ki raro, haumie, huie, tāhiki e. Kia ora. Kia ora.